Picture New York City in the dead of winter, 1899. The temperature has plunged well below freezing, and somewhere beneath the hissing steam vents of lower Manhattan, a barefoot child no older than 10 pulls a crumpled stack of unsold newspapers tightly around his shivering body. He has no coat, no blanket, no mother calling him inside. What he has is paper, and the quiet, desperate ingenuity to make it enough to survive the night. Welcome to Fieldcraft Chronicles. Tonight, we go back to the frostbitten streets where America's newsies turned yesterday's headlines into their only shield against death by cold. What made newspaper such a remarkable survival tool wasn't luck. It was physics, though the newsies themselves would never have used that word. The cellulose fibers woven through every sheet of newsprint create thousands of microscopic air pockets. And still, air is one of nature's most stubborn resistors of heat transfer. When a child stuffed folded newspaper between a thin undershirt and a worn jacket, they were unknowingly replicating the same layered insulation principle used in modern thermal gear. Crumpling the paper amplified the effect dramatically, creating an irregular surface full of trapped air that clung to body heat like a second skin. The more layers, the slower the warmth bled away into the night. It was primitive thermodynamics wrapped in ink and desperation. The technique itself was both simple and sophisticated. Experienced street children knew that a single flat sheet of newspaper offered little protection, but 4 or 5 sheets folded and layered could mean the difference between waking up stiff and not waking up at all. They slept atop thick stacks to insulate themselves from the frozen, moisture-wicking ground, because the earth beneath them was just as lethal as the air above. The most vulnerable extremities, feet and hands, received special attention. Sheets were wrapped tightly round bare feet before shoes were pulled on, sealing in warmth and blocking the wind that cut through worn leather soles like a blade. Arms and legs were bound similarly, turning ragged limbs into insulated bundles. These weren't random acts of desperation. They were practiced, refined techniques passed down from older newsies to younger ones, oral fieldcraft for the streets. The sidewalk grating became the newsies' campfire. Boiler vents beneath the streets of lower Manhattan exhaled warm, steady steam throughout the night, and those who knew where to find them claimed their territory with the same territorial instinct as any wilderness survivor staking a fire site. A child lying across a warm grate with several layers of newspaper draped over their body created a genuinely effective thermal system, warm air rising from below, insulated paper slowing its escape above. The surrounding city, with all its noise and indifference, became a kind of hostile wilderness, and these children navigated it with the resourcefulness of seasoned scouts. They read the urban environment for heat sources, dry overhangs, and sheltered alleyways, the same way a bushcrafter reads a forest for windbreaks, dry tinder, and high ground. What strikes the modern survivalist most profoundly about the newsies is not simply what they did, but what it reveals about the human capacity to adapt under extreme pressure. These were not trained soldiers or wilderness experts. They were children, largely abandoned by the systems meant to protect them, who developed a coherent, effective survival methodology from nothing more than the materials at hand and the urgent need to see the next morning. Newspaper insulation as a survival technique did not disappear with the newsies. It survived through the Great Depression, when it earned the bitterly ironic name Hoover blanket, a quiet indictment of political failure wrapped in the same cellulose that had kept orphaned children alive a generation earlier. The technique endures today in emergency preparedness guides, in the kits of experienced bushcrafters, and in the packs of those who understand that the most powerful survival tool is not gear, it is knowledge. Every era produces its survivors, and every survivor teaches the same fundamental truth. Resources are rarely the limitation, awareness is. The newsies of the Gilded Age looked at a discarded newspaper and saw warmth, shelter, and another morning. In that small, fierce act of perception lies the entire philosophy of Fieldcraft, the belief that with sharp eyes, sound judgment, and practiced technique, the prepared mind will always find a way. Whether you are navigating a winter wilderness or facing an unexpected emergency, the lesson from those steam grate sleepers in Old Manhattan is timeless. Layer deliberately, insulate from the ground up, protect your extremities first, and never underestimate the survival value of what the world considers worthless. If this episode reminded you that survival knowledge lives everywhere, in history books, in forgotten street wisdom, in the remarkable ingenuity of ordinary people pushed to their limits, then Fieldcraft Chronicles has done its job. This channel exists precisely to rescue that knowledge before it disappears entirely, and to place it in the hands of those who value self-reliance, historical truth, and the craft of being genuinely prepared. If you found value here today, please subscribe to Fieldcraft Chronicles and share this video with every history lover, bushcrafter, and preparedness-minded person in your life. The knowledge that kept a child alive on a frozen New York street in 1899 might one day matter more than you expect. Stay sharp, stay curious, and we'll see you in the field.